Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. Back a few weeks ago, I had posted a video on my potato harvest, my dismal potato harvest, when I was growing potatoes in bags. But in that video, I briefly mentioned and showed you potato berries that sometimes form on potatoes off of when the vines sprout and they flower. Sometimes they'll produce berries. But I wanted to clarify a few things about potato berries and give you more information on them, and also show you how you can save seed for your potato berry or from your potato berries. So these are the potato berries up close. This is what they look like. And you'll see small bunches of these hanging off of your plants if the conditions are right. Now, I mentioned when the conditions are right. There's a couple things that will affect whether your potato plants or potato vines will get berries on them. A lot of potatoes, when you get your seed potato, you plant them from your potato seed potatoes or tubers. When they sprout and grow, a lot of those that you get from stores or nurseries or what have you have a pollen, or I don't know if it's a pollen inhibitor or it's called sterile pollen within the flower of the plant. And what that basically means is that even if you get visitors from pollinators like bumblebees or honeybees and whatnot, normally bumblebees are a big one for pollinating the flowers or blossoms on a potato plant. But even if you have pollinators like that, it won't produce berries unless you have more than one variety growing. And so that's one of the conditions, is that you would need to have multiple varieties if you are growing a potato that has the sterile pollen in it. Now, if you've already saved potato seeds before, then most likely you do not have the sterile pollen. Second is the type of weather that you need. In a lot of cases, when you're growing potatoes, you'll see, your vines will grow, they'll get blossoms on them, but the blossoms will just drop off, and that's fine. But if the conditions are right with weather, they need enough moisture. And now I've read that they prefer cooler weather, that you need a lot of rain and cool weather for the berries to form. That was not my case here this year. I had a very hot summer, but I did get a lot of rain, and the potatoes that I had produced berries. I had got a couple different varieties from a company online that it's all organic kind of type stuff, and I think because I also had like 3 different varieties growing right next to each other instead of just buying one variety, that helped me get potato berries as well. Now you may notice, they do look like little berries. However, these are not edible. And one thing that you need to watch out for is to make sure, especially if you have small children, that they don't try to eat these things, because they're poisonous. Potato berries, just like a lot of things in the nightshade family, contain the alkaloid solanine, which is a poisonous thing that can make you very ill and could even potentially kill you. So if you have small children and your potatoes produce berries, make sure that they are removed or inaccessible to your kids or even your pets. If you've got dogs that tend to eat weird things, make sure your dogs don't get a hold of these either. Random, maybe useless fact side note: in the 1930s, there was an author by the name of Dorothy Leigh Sayers, and she wrote a collection of short stories called In the Teeth of Evidence. And within those short stories was a story called The Leopard Lady, and there was a child featured in that story that was poisoned by potato berries. Useless facts, right? Now, if you want to save these berries and get the seeds out of them and grow your own potatoes from your own seed, you can certainly do that. A couple things about these is that, one, when you plant a potato, seed potato, just the tuber itself, you're planting an exact clone of its parent. With potato berries, it's not going to be an exact clone. It's going to take on the characteristics of whatever it was pollinated from. So it could be a combo of maybe two different potato varieties that you had planted. And so you may end up with a new variety of potato that you created all yourself that's specific to the pollination that occurred between your two varieties or three varieties, or whatever happened that dropped the pollen and mixed it all in there together. You're going to end up with some type of new potato. So that's always a cool thing, and that's kind of how they create new varieties too. So, to save your seed. Now, some people will just kind of squish these berries open or cut them and then stick them in the ground outside and just leave them be and let them sprout on their own. And I've read several comments from various people that say that they have potatoes sprout that way, that they do it every year and have good luck with it. But if you can also save your potato seeds for later, and to do so, you need to ferment them. Same way you would a tomato. Like if you're saving your tomato seeds, you have to ferment them before you save them. And so I'll just show you how to do that here today. It's real quick, and actually the potato berry seeds look a lot like tomato seeds. They kind of have a lot of the same characteristics. To ferment them, you're only going to need a couple of things. One, you're going to need your potato berry. You're going to need depending on how many you're doing, I'm just using a pint jar, but some sort of jar to ferment them in, and some water. Now, some people will also add like a yeast solution in there or a pinch of sugar to kind of help get the fermentation going, but that's not absolutely necessary. That just speeds up the process. So we're just going to take our potato berry. Got a knife here. And you don't even really have to do this. You could probably just squish them and that would work too. So you can see in there it has the gel and the seeds just like a tomato would. And that's what you're going to extract out of there. So once we got the berries cut open, just going to kind of squish all that stuff out of there into the jar. Okay, so now I've got the gel and a bunch of seeds in there from those berries. There's probably about 100 to 300 berries, or there's probably about 100 to 300 seeds in each one of those berries. So you're going to get plenty from even just a small amount. I'm just adding some water to the jar. Do it about half full, I guess. I got some seeds stuck up around the sides that probably aren't going to cooperate with me. But we're going to let this sit in here in room temperature for probably 2 to 3 days for this ferment process to happen. Just set it on top of a counter, or set it on top of your fridge or on top of a cabinet, somewhere out of reach where it's not going to get knocked over or where you're not going to have a child or a pet get into it. All right, so then we'll check back in 3 days. Okay, so it's been about 3 days, maybe 3.5 days since we started the ferment. You can see that the water solution in there has gotten pretty cloudy now, and we are now ready to start drying these out. But first we need to clean them off. There's a little bit of the white yeasty stuff on top. That might be some calm yeast. And if you have any seeds that aren't viable, they'll float to the top. I don't really see much of anything floating in here, so I think I'm probably pretty good. So I just got a glass bowl here with a colander, which is a wire colander. We're gonna dump this stuff out. Maybe you can see there's still some of the gel left. Got a bunch of seeds stuck to it, but we don't really want that. Try to clean them off a little bit here. And so we got a cleaner batch of seeds. And I'm just trying to rinse them off some, clean them out a little bit. Once you have your seeds clean, you just tap them out onto a paper plate. We'll try to save as many of these as possible. And then you don't want to leave them in a big pile. Spread them out, you know, to some degree, as much as you can kind of manage. And you know, they're sticky and it's kind of hard, so if you can spread them out so they can dry properly, that would be best. Once you have them spread out on the plate, you can set them up somewhere to dry. Once they're dried out, put them in an envelope or something, you know, whatever you store your seeds in, and put them away until you're ready to plant them. And that, my friends, is how you save true potato seed, TPS, so that you could mess around with making your own varieties or just to be more sustainable and saving those seeds. One last note on that is you don't have to worry if your potato vines start producing berries and you're not going to use them. I mean, they will just, you know, fall off, or you can pick them off and get rid of them, but they're not going to affect the growth of your actual tubers, your potatoes. It doesn't matter if it gets berries on it or not, your plant's still going to produce potatoes. But whatever's going on in your neck of the woods, I hope that it is going fantastic for you and that you're having a great summer. Appreciate you coming by and hanging out with me again today. And we will see you again soon. Have a great day. Namaste.